And co-main event time, we got the first of two fighters that are vying to become double champs with Zhang Weili taking on Valentina Shevchenko. And this is a huge win, man. I mean, we got the number one pound-for-pound female fighter against the number two pound-for-pound female fighter with Valentina Shevchenko holding the title, holding the crown of number one pound-for-pound, having, I believe, the most title victories for a female in UFC history. And now she's taken on just an absolute tank, someone that's been dominating recently at 115 pounds, moving up, trying to secure potential GOAT status here. And for Valentina Shevchenko, her last fight, people forget she was the underdog in that fight against Manon Fior. And there was a lot of trash talk going into that one. They bet each other that the loser had to retire and everything like that. So there were some stakes going into that fight in terms of Valentina. I think if she lost, there would have been questions about where she was in her career potentially, because it would have been only one win in her last four fights at that point. But now with the victory, she's, back on top of the world and the favorite here in this super fight against Weili Zhang. So that just kind of shows that Valentina is still very much a top-level fighter at 37, but Weili's 36. I think that's something that people don't really take into account. Both these ladies are a little older, but they haven't really slowed down at all, really. And you look at stylistically, I think early on Valentina is going to be more successful because she has a decent reach advantage, 4 inches. She's a little bit sharper with her striking and her distance control, I believe. And even though Weili is really good as well, blitzing in, blitzing out, controlling the range, we saw like when she fought Yan Xiaonan, early on she was struggling a little bit with Xiaonan's ability to kind of just stand at the edge of range like Shevchenko does and slide in, slide out, counter you as you try to come in. So I think that Valentina is going to do well controlling the distance early, and she's going to be able to potentially land that lead right hook often on Weili and kind of bust her up a little bit. But I think that Weili, when she turns it up and kind of makes it ugly, she's going to be able to close the distance and back Shevchenko up. And I think that's going to be the tail of the fight, because I feel like for Weili to win this fight, she has to be dominant in the wrestling and the grappling departments. If she's able to put Valentina on the fence, put her on her back, she could potentially even get the rear naked choke in this fight, I believe, or just dominate from the top position. On the feet, it's going to be a lot tougher. I think that if she can get some takedowns, that the striking will open up for her and she'll be able to use her blitzes and her 1-2s and her ability to close the distance with speed and combinations to land. But I think that if she can't establish a takedown, it's going to be really hard for her to close that distance without getting clipped. And I think Valentina is going to be able to just pot shot all night and win kind of a boring decision. So it's going to be pivotal for Weili to get a takedown in the first round or the second round and prove dominance from the top position. If she can do that, I think at that point she'll be able to potentially even get a submission from the takedown attempt or start to take over the fight. And at some point, I think that even though they've had the same, or they're similar ages, Shevchenko has shown more kind of cracks in the armor recently where she's, you could say, not really showing her age, but I guess you could kind of argue that a little bit. And I just feel like I'm leaning towards Zhang in this one. I think if it's a close decision, her aggression can maybe edge the fight for her. And I honestly think she can get a takedowns in this one and be more dominant on top. It's just the fact that Valentina has fought a lot bigger girls and done well in the grappling department, where maybe she'll be able to outstrength Zhang a little bit, but ultimately I think that Zhang is going to be able to hold her own there, get on top. And I'm going to say Weili actually gets a submission in this fight. So I'm leaning towards Weili Zhang, and I think she'll be able to actually earn the finish. So give me Weili Zhang to get the job done in this one.